Nia's feet were screaming. 19 hours. She'd been awake for 19 hours, and her body was protesting every step she took down the disorienting hallway of the luxury residence. The flickering emergency lights cast strange shadows across walls that smelled of fresh paint and money. So much money it made her stomach turn. Back home in Lagos, this kind of wealth didn't exist in her world. Here in Seoul, she cleaned it. Just 4 more months, she thought, mentally calculating the one in her envelope against the surgery estimate. 4 more months and Micah gets his new heart. 4 more months and I can sleep. She pulled out the crumpled note from her pocket, squinting at the hurried handwriting. Room 902, fresh towels. The renovations had turned these hallways into a maze. Everything looked the same. Polished marble, identical doors, soft lighting that was supposed to be calming, but only made her more exhausted. Her vision blurred as she stopped in front of a door. 903? Or was it 902? The numbers swam before her eyes. She knocked once, twice. No answer. Naya turned the handle and stepped inside. The suite was dimly lit, warm air carrying the scent of citrus and expensive cologne. Steam drifted from an open bathroom door, and before she could process what that meant, a man stepped out. Time fractured. Water cascaded down sculpted muscles, each drop catching the low light. But Nia's eyes didn't linger on his physique. Instead, they fixed on something else entirely. Violent scars crossing his ribs like lightning strikes, a deep knife mark on his left hip, a fresh purple bruise spreading across his shoulder. These weren't gym injuries. These were survival marks. Their eyes locked. His were dark, unreadable, dangerous. The eyes of a man who'd seen terrible things and done worse. But hers were wide with shock and something he couldn't immediately place. Not lust, not fear. Something softer, concern. I'm so sorry, Josanghamnida, Nia stammered in broken Korean, backing toward the door. Wrong room. I'm so sorry. She fled, towels forgotten, her heart hammering against her ribs. Behind her, Jaewon Kang stood frozen in his suite, water still dripping from his hair. Slowly, he touched the scars on his ribs, the ones he kept hidden, the ones that told stories he'd buried deep. She'd seen them, she'd looked right at them, and she was still alive. That realization chilled him more than the cooling water on his skin. In his world, witnesses didn't survive. Loose ends got tied, liabilities got eliminated. He reached for his phone, his voice cold and controlled. Find out everything about the girl who just left my room. Before we continue, hit that like button and subscribe, because what happens next will change everything for Nia. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and trust me, you won't believe what happens when two different worlds collide. The nightmare came again. Nia jolted awake in the narrow dormitory bed, her mother's final breath still echoing in her ears. That horrible rattle, the way her hand went limp in her grip, the monitor's flat line that meant Nia was alone in the world with a dying 12-year-old brother to save. She clutched her phone, staring at her wallpaper, Micah's latest hospital photo. Even with oxygen tubes in his nose and monitors taped to his thin chest, he managed that brilliant smile that broke and mended her heart simultaneously. I'm gonna save you, she promised silently. Mama asked me to, and I will. Dawnlight crept through the small window of the room she shared with 3 other cleaning staff. Nia sat up carefully, trying not to wake Elena, her Filipina roommate, who'd become her only friend in this strange city. She pulled out the envelope from under her mattress, the one labeled surgery fund in her careful handwriting. Inside, neatly organized notes represented every aching hour, every missed meal, every moment of homesickness. She counted quickly, 8.4 million won, still 15 million short. 4 more months, she calculated again, maybe 3.5 if I take extra shifts. Her phone buzzed with a video call. Micah. Nia. His face filled the screen, thin but animated. Guess what? Dr. Park says my numbers are looking better. Maybe the surgery can happen sooner. Nia's heart swelled. That's wonderful, baby boy. How are you feeling today? Tired, but okay. The nurses let me watch a Korean drama. Nia, why do all the men look so serious and handsome? He giggled, and the sound was medicine she hadn't known she needed. Not all of them, she said, though an image of water-slicked muscles and dangerous eyes flashed through her mind unwanted. She shook her head. How's Mrs. Adebayo treating you? She makes me eat vegetables. Micah made a disgusted face. But she tells me stories about Mama when she was young. Did you know Mama once climbed a tree to rescue a cat and got stuck for 3 hours? Nia laughed, tears threatening. I didn't know that. They talked for 20 more minutes before a nurse came to take Micah for tests. After hanging up, Nia pressed the phone to her chest, remembering her mother's deathbed whisper. Promise me, Nia. Promise me you'll keep him alive. He's all the good I did in this world. Nia had made that promise. She just hadn't known it would bring her here, across the world, to a country where she couldn't speak the language properly, where she was invisible except when she made mistakes. Like last night. God, last night. You look like you've seen a ghost. Elena's voice startled her. The older woman sat up, her hair wrapped in a colorful scarf. Rough shift? I? I walked into the wrong room last night. Elena's eyes widened. Please tell me it wasn't. The top floor, room 903. Dios mío. The CEO's suite? Nia, what did you see? Everything. Nothing. He was just... I left quickly. Elena studied her with knowing eyes. Be careful with that man. He's not like the others. The staff says he never smiles, never brings women home, barely speaks. They say he has a cold heart. She lowered her voice. Some say he's connected to dangerous people. Gangsters. Nia's stomach tightened, remembering those scars. Before she could respond, her phone rang again. Dr. Park. Nia, good morning. His warm voice filled the small room. Dr. Minjun Park had been Micah's surgeon for 2 years, the only reason her brother was still alive. He was kind, patient, and had somehow connected Nia with this sole job through his hospital's international network. How are you settling in? Is the work manageable? Yes, Dr. Park. Thank you again for recommending me. Of course, you're like family to me now. His smile was gentle on the screen, his neat silver-streaked hair and round glasses giving him a grandfatherly appearance despite being only in his 50s. Tell me, have you met anyone interesting? Any friends? The question felt odd, but Nia attributed it to his general concern. Just my roommate. And I? I accidentally met the CEO last night. Wrong room. Something flickered across Dr. Park's expression. So brief, Nia almost missed it. A tightening around his eyes, a sharp interest quickly masked. The CEO? Fascinating. I hope he wasn't too harsh with you? No, I left before. It's nothing. I'm just trying to keep my head down and work. Very wise, very wise. Dr. Park's smile returned, warm as sunshine. Well, I won't keep you. Just wanted to check in. Micah misses you, but he's doing wonderfully. We'll talk soon. After he hung up, Naya stared at the blank screen, an inexplicable unease settling in her chest. Elena was already dressed in her uniform. Come on, we'll be late, and you can't afford another mistake with management. Another mistake, Nia thought, pulling on her own uniform. She was determined to avoid the top floor, avoid those dangerous eyes, avoid the man whose scars told stories she didn't want to know. She had no idea that avoidance was no longer an option. The employee lounge was buzzing with afternoon chatter when Naya entered with her cleaning cart. She'd managed to avoid the top floor for 3 days, throwing herself into work on the lower levels, pretending that night had been a fever dream. She was wiping down tables when the room changed. The shift was immediate and visceral. Conversations died mid-sentence. Chairs scraped as people stood abruptly, coffee cups abandoned. Within 30 seconds, the lounge had emptied as if someone had pulled a fire alarm only she couldn't hear. Naya's hands stilled on the table. Dread pooled in her stomach. Nia Roberts. The voice came from the doorway, smooth, cold, speaking perfect English with barely a trace of accent. She turned slowly. Jae-won Kang stood framed in the entrance, dressed in an immaculate black suit that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. His dark hair was styled back, revealing sharp cheekbones and those eyes, the same dangerous eyes that had locked with hers 3 nights ago. 2 men flanked him, tall and imposing, with the kind of stillness that suggested violence held on a leash. Born in Lagos, Nigeria, he continued, walking toward her with measured steps. 24 years old. One brother, Micah, age 12. Mother deceased 18 months ago. You've been in Seoul for 6 weeks, working for Kang Group's residential services. Terror and rage warred in Nia's chest. How do you? I make it my business to know everything about people who enter my private spaces. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and something darker. You saw something you shouldn't have. I saw nothing, Nia lied, her voice shaking. I made a mistake. I apologize. It won't happen again. You saw everything. His eyes were unreadable, but something flickered beneath the ice. And now we have a problem. I can't let you walk around as a liability. I'm not a liability. I'm nobody. I just want to work, and from today, you work directly for me. He spoke over her as if she hadn't protested. Triple your current salary, private accommodations. You'll clean only my penthouse, and you'll be available when I need you. The words sounded like a proposition of a different kind. Nia's stomach churned. No, absolutely not. I'll transfer to a different building. A different. I'm not asking. His voice remained dangerously calm, but something hardened in his expression. Your brother Micah needs surgery in 3 months, according to his medical timeline. I can make it 2 weeks. The best cardiac surgeon in Asia, flown to Lagos or brought here. Your choice. Full payment covered. Nia's breath caught. You. How do you know about his surgery? I know everything about you. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, then slid it across the table toward her. But there are things you don't know about your own situation. With trembling hands, Nia picked up the phone. The screen showed Micah's medical records, detailed charts she recognized. But then she swiped, and her blood turned to ice. Photographs. Surveillance photographs. Men in dark clothes standing across the street from the Lagos hospital. Different men, different days, but always watching the entrance. One photo showed a man following Mrs. Adebayo, the neighbor who looked after Micah. Another showed someone in the hospital corridor, lurking near Micah's room. What is this? Nia whispered. Security footage from the past 3 weeks, Jaewon said, his voice softer now, almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. Those men aren't hospital staff, Nia. Someone is watching your brother. Someone wants leverage over you. That's impossible. I'm nobody. Why would anyone? I don't know yet. He leaned forward, his hands flat on the table. But I will find out. The question is whether you'll be safe when I do, or whether you'll be out there alone, vulnerable, while your brother sits in a hospital bed surrounded by threats you can't even see. Nia's mind reeled. This couldn't be real. This had to be manipulation, some sick game to trap her. But the photos didn't lie. She recognized the hospital entrance, the street vendor on the corner, Mrs. Adebayo's colorful head wrap. You're lying, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. You did this. You sent those men to scare me into. If I wanted to scare you, Nia, you'd already be scared. His eyes held hers. I'm offering you protection, a chance to save your brother now instead of gambling with time you might not have. Accept my offer, move to my penthouse tonight, work for me directly, and I guarantee no one touches him. Refuse, and you're both on your own against enemies you don't even know exist. Why? The word came out broken. Why would you help me? For a moment, something crossed his face, something almost human, but it vanished before she could name it. Because you saw my scars and looked concerned instead of afraid, he said quietly. Because you're desperate and alone in a foreign country. Because I can. He straightened. You have 10 minutes to decide. My car is waiting outside. Nia looked at the photos again, at the shadowy figures haunting her brother's world. She thought of Micah's smile, his trust, her mother's dying wish. She had no choice. She'd never had a choice. I'll come, she whispered, but if you hurt him. I won't. Jiwon's voice carried an edge of something she couldn't identify. I protect what's mine. And as of now, whether you like it or not, you're mine to protect. He turned and walked toward the door, his guards following. At the threshold, he paused. Bring only what matters. Everything else will be provided. Then he was gone, leaving Nia alone in the empty lounge with a phone full of nightmares and a future she could no longer control. She looked at my scars with concern, not fear, Jaewon thought as he entered the elevator. No one has done that since I was a child. I should kill her for what she saw. Eliminate the liability. That's what the white tiger would do. So why am I protecting her instead? The elevator doors closed on that dangerous question. The penthouse was a cage made of glass and luxury. Nia stood in her new bedroom. Calling it a bedroom felt obscene when it was larger than the entire apartment she'd shared with Micah back in Lagos, and tried to convince herself this wasn't a prison. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. The bed was draped in silk sheets that probably cost more than her monthly salary, and the ensuite bathroom had heated floors and a rainfall shower. but the door locked from the outside at night. She'd checked. 3 days into her new life, Nia had established a routine born of necessity and survival instinct. She woke at 6, cleaned the already immaculate penthouse, avoided Jaewon as much as possible, and tried not to think about the fact that she was living with a man who casually mentioned having people followed. Jaewon himself was a study in contradictions. He barely spoke to her, communicating mostly through notes left on the kitchen counter in neat handwriting. "Don't enter my office. The door is locked for your safety, not mine. Eat whatever you want. The kitchen is fully stocked. The gym is yours if you need it. Exercise helps with stress." The notes were oddly considerate for a man holding her captive. On the fourth morning, everything changed. Naya was dusting the living room when her elbow caught an ornate vase on a side table. She watched in horror as it toppled, falling in slow motion before shattering against the marble floor in an explosion of ceramic and water. Her heart stopped. The vase looked ancient, priceless, probably worth more than the surgery fund she'd been building for months. No, no, no. She dropped to her knees, frantically gathering pieces with shaking hands. A sharp edge sliced her palm, blood welling immediately, but she barely noticed. "Please, please." "What happened?" Jaewon's voice made her flinch. She looked up to find him standing in the hallway, dressed in casual clothes for once, black slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms marked with faint scars. "I'm so sorry," Nia stammered, blood dripping from her hand onto the broken ceramic. "I'll pay for it. I'll work extra hours. He crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt beside her. Before she could protest, he took her bleeding hand in his, examining the cut with focused intensity. "You're hurt." His voice was soft, almost concerned. "The vase I broke your." "I don't care about the vase." He stood, pulling her up with him, and guided her to the kitchen sink. She was too shocked to resist as he turned on the water, holding her hand under the stream. His touch was surprisingly gentle, his fingers carefully washing away the blood. "It looked expensive," Nia whispered. "It was." He opened a cabinet, pulling out a first aid kit. 15th century Joseon dynasty. Irreplaceable, technically. Her stomach dropped. "I'll pay you back. The vase costs nothing." Jiwon met her eyes as he carefully dried her hand. "Your hands are worth more." The words hung between them, weighted with meaning she didn't understand. He applied antiseptic, she hissed at the sting, then wrapped her palm in gauze with practiced precision. "You've done this before," she observed, trying to reconcile this careful version of him with the man who'd ordered death over the phone. "Many times." He released her hand, but didn't step away. "Be more careful, Nia. I need you intact." "Need you intact?" The words should have sounded threatening, but his tone suggested something else entirely. Before she could respond, he walked away, leaving her standing in the kitchen, confused and oddly touched by his contradiction. That night, Nia couldn't sleep. Seoul glittered below her window like a living thing, beautiful and alien. She pulled on a robe and wandered through the dark penthouse, drawn by instinct toward the terrace. She found him there. Jaewon stood at the railing, smoking a cigarette, his profile sharp against the city lights. He'd changed into loose pants and a t-shirt, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. "Can't sleep?" he asked without turning. Naya hesitated, then joined him at the railing, keeping careful distance between them. "I'm not used to all this." The luxury or the captivity? His bluntness startled her. Both. He took a drag from his cigarette, exhaling smoke into the night air. "Tell me about Micah." The question surprised her more than anything else could have. "Why?" "Because I'm curious. Because you crossed an ocean for him. Because." He paused. "Because I want to understand what drives someone to sacrifice everything for another person." There was something raw in his voice, something that suggested he genuinely didn't understand that kind of love. "He's my brother," Nia said simply. "Our mother died asking me to keep him alive. He's 12 years old, and he's never done anything wrong, and he deserves a chance to grow up. That's all there is to it." "Unconditional love," Jaewon mused. "I've heard of it. Never experienced it." "What about your family?" His laugh was bitter. "My father taught me that power matters more than people. My mother left when I was 7. My brother tried to kill me when I was 19. That's how I got this." He touched his ribs where she knew those violent scars resided. Family is a concept for other people. Nia saw him differently then, not as her captor, but as someone just as trapped as she was, just in a different kind of cage. Loneliness is safer than trust, he continued, almost to himself. That's what I learned. People betray you. Power is reliable. Fear is consistent. He turned to look at her finally. And yet here you are, trusting a doctor you barely know, working for a man you should fear, all for a brother who can't repay you. Love isn't about repayment. No, he agreed softly. I suppose it isn't. They stood in comfortable silence, two lonely people temporarily sharing their isolation. Then Nia's fragile peace shattered. 2 days later, she was in the kitchen when Jaewon's voice carried from his office. Harsh, cold, speaking rapid Korean. She didn't understand most of it, but certain words were universal. Kill him, make it look like an accident, no witnesses. Her blood turned to ice. This was the real Jaewon, the dangerous man beneath the careful bandages and considerate notes. She backed away from the office, her heart pounding, reminding herself that she was living with someone capable of casual violence. That afternoon, everything became more complicated. The elevator dinged, and a man stepped out, tall, handsome, with an easy smile that transformed his entire face. He wore a tailored suit but carried himself with relaxed confidence. You must be Nia, he said warmly in perfect English. I'm Han So-jun, Jaewon's business partner. I've heard you're brave enough to work for him, which makes you either very courageous or slightly crazy. Despite herself, Nia smiled. Maybe both. Definitely both, Sojun agreed, his eyes twinkling. Listen, if you ever need anything, and I mean anything, please call me. He handed her a business card. Jaewon is complicated. Most people can't handle the cold, but you seem different. Stronger, maybe. Seojun. Jaewon's voice cut through the moment like a blade. He stood in his office doorway, his expression neutral, but his eyes sharp. Did you need something, or are you just here to harass my staff? Just being friendly, Sojun said lightly, but Nia noticed tension between them. I'll see you at the board meeting. After he left, Jaewon approached Nia with controlled movements. What did Director Han say to you? The question sounded casual. It wasn't. Nothing. Just introduced himself. Stay away from him. Jaewon's voice was quiet, dangerous. Seojun is charming, but charm is a weapon. Don't forget that. Before she could respond, her phone rang. Dr. Park. Nia, wonderful news. Micah's surgery has been scheduled for 2 weeks from now. The surgeon Mr. Kang arranged is extraordinary. How are you settling in? How is Mr. Kang treating you? Nia's mind raced. She'd never told Dr. Park about Jaewon's offer. She'd never mentioned Jaewon's name. How did you know about the surgery? She asked carefully. Mr. Kang's office contacted me, of course, to coordinate Micah's care. Dr. Park's voice was warm, fatherly. I'm so glad the surgery is being moved up. Time is precious with heart conditions. After the call ended, Nia stood frozen, pieces of a puzzle she didn't understand clicking together with growing unease. Dr. Park knew about Jaewon before she'd mentioned him. Dr. Park had recommended this sole job. Dr. Park was Korean, working in Lagos, somehow connected to everything. Someone wants leverage over you, Jaewon had said. And suddenly, Nia wondered if she'd walked into the wrong room that night, or if someone had carefully arranged for her to be in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. You're coming with me tonight. Nia looked up from folding laundry to find Jaewon standing in the doorway, dressed in a tuxedo that made him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread, dangerous and devastating in equal measure. Coming where? A charity gala. You'll be introduced as my new assistant. His tone left no room for argument. There's a dress in your closet. Be ready in an hour. The dress was midnight blue silk that hugged her curves and fell to her ankles in an elegant sweep. Nia stared at herself in the mirror, barely recognizing the woman looking back. She'd later discover that Jaewon had personally selected it, spending an hour with the boutique owner, describing her complexion, her height, what would make her feel beautiful rather than exposed. But now, sitting beside him in the back of his Mercedes, she felt like an imposter. The gala was held in a glittering hotel ballroom that screamed old money and new power. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light over guests in designer clothes, servers circulating with champagne that probably cost more per glass than Nia earned in a day. But beneath the elegance, she sensed something darker. Armed security lined the walls, their eyes constantly scanning. Conversations stopped when Jaewon passed, replaced by respectful nods that looked more like fear. People treated him like royalty, or like a predator they didn't want to provoke. Stay close, Jaewon murmured, his hand settling on the small of her back. And if anything feels wrong, you find me immediately. Understood? Before she could ask what wrong meant at a charity gala, a cluster of businessmen approached, and Jaewon was pulled into conversation. Nia used the opportunity to escape to the restroom, needing a moment to breathe. She was walking down the ornate hallway when she heard voices. Two men speaking Korean in rapid, hushed tones. Nia's Korean was limited, but certain words cut through the linguistic barrier. Micah Roberts. Her heart stopped. She pressed herself against the wall, hidden behind a decorative pillar. The poison worked perfectly. Dr. Park says the girl is in position now. How long until the tiger realizes? Doesn't matter. Once she's pregnant, he'll be ours completely. Their laughter was cruel, casual, as if they were discussing the weather rather than her life. Nia's breath came in short gasps. Poison? Position? Dr. Park? She stumbled back to the ballroom, her vision tunneling. She found Jaewon across the room, and he must have seen something in her face because he immediately excused himself, crossing to her in long strides. Nia, what? The explosion of gunfire cut him off. Chaos erupted. Screams. Breaking glass. Armed men in black tactical gear burst through the doors, weapons raised. Guests scattered like terrified birds. Nia stood frozen as everything moved in slow motion. Then Jaewon's body slammed into hers, driving her to the ground as bullets tore through the space where she'd been standing. His weight pinned her down, one arm wrapped around her head protectively. Stay down, he growled. More gunfire. Jaewon jerked, and Nia felt warm liquid splash onto her shoulder. Blood. You're hit, she gasped. I'm fine. Don't move. His guards materialized, returning fire, creating a protective barrier. Someone shouted orders in Korean. Then hands were pulling them up, rushing them through a hidden door behind the stage, down concrete stairs into what looked like a secure bunker. The steel door slammed shut, muffling the chaos above. Nia found herself in a windowless room with concrete walls, harsh fluorescent lighting, and Jaewon bleeding from his shoulder while his guards secured the perimeter. You need a doctor, Nia said, her hands shaking as she reached for him. Later. He shrugged out of his jacket, revealing the bullet graze along his shoulder, painful but not life-threatening. What happened upstairs? Before the attack? You looked terrified. Everything spilled out. The conversation she'd overheard, the words that had turned her world inside out. They mentioned Micah. They said the poison worked. They mentioned Dr. Park. Her voice cracked. What the hell is happening, Jaewon? He was silent for a long moment, his jaw tight, blood still seeping from his wound. Then he met her eyes, and she saw resignation there, the look of a man about to destroy someone's world. Your brother wasn't born sick, Nia. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. What? Micah was poisoned 6 months ago with a slow-acting toxin designed to mimic a congenital heart condition. Jaewon's voice was steady, clinical, but his eyes held sympathy. Someone wanted to control you, to force you into a position of desperation. Nia's legs gave out. She would have collapsed if Jaewon hadn't caught her, guiding her to sit against the wall. No, that's Dr. Park saved him. He's been treating him for 2 years. Dr. Park poisoned him. Jaewon knelt in front of her, ignoring his own injury. When I discovered you'd seen my scars, I couldn't risk you being a threat. I investigated you. That's when I found anomalies in Micah's medical records, toxin markers that don't match congenital conditions. I've been having it treated secretly. The surgery isn't surgery, it's chelation therapy to remove the poison from his system. Nia couldn't breathe. The room spun. Who? The word came out broken. Who would poison a child? Someone close to you, someone you trust. Jaewon's expression darkened with barely contained rage. Dr. Minjun Park. He's not just a doctor. He's a broker for a rival organization called the Black Serpents. He poisons targets' families to create leverage, then positions those targets where they're useful, like in my home, as an unwitting spy. But I'm not a spy. I didn't know anything. I know. His voice softened. That's why you're still alive. You're innocent, Naya, but they don't care. To them, you're just a tool to get to me. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Dr. Park's concern, his convenient job recommendation, his knowledge of Jaewon's name before she'd mentioned it. He used my brother. Tears streamed down her face. He hurt Micah to control me. He's a monster. Yes. Jaewon reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he cupped her face with his uninjured hand. But I won't let them use you anymore. I won't let them touch him. You have my word. Something in his voice, the absolute conviction, the protective fury, broke through her shock. She looked up at him, this dangerous man who'd taken a bullet for her, who'd been secretly saving her brother, who looked at her now like she was something precious. Why? She whispered. Why protect me? You could have just eliminated the threat. Because you looked at my scars with concern instead of fear. Because you're fighting for someone you love, and I... He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his face. I forgot what that looked like. You reminded me I used to be human. The moment stretched between them, charged with emotion neither was ready to name. Then Jaewon's phone buzzed. He read the message, and his expression went stone cold. What is it? The attackers have been traced to a warehouse across the city. His voice was deadly quiet. The rental contract has director Han So-jun's signature on it. Nia's blood ran cold. The charming man who'd offered to help her. Jaewon's oldest friend. Seo-jun? She whispered. Jaewon stood, his eyes empty in a way that terrified her. It seems, he said softly, that everyone I trust is busy trying to destroy me. The penthouse had transformed into a command center. Men in dark suits filled the space, speaking in clipped Korean, studying laptops and surveillance footage. Nia sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm room, watching Jaewon orchestrate his response with cold precision. A medic had patched his shoulder. He'd changed into a black shirt that made him look even more dangerous, every inch the Mafia boss she'd tried to pretend he wasn't. Everything's confirmed, his head of security reported in English, probably for Nia's benefit. Director Han has been transferring information to the Black Serpents for 6 months. Financial records, security details, your schedule. The gala attack was timed to when you'd be most vulnerable. Jiwon's expression didn't change, but Nia saw his hands clench. Bring him here. 30 minutes later, Han So-jun was dragged into the penthouse, his hands bound, his face already bruised from resisting capture. Gone was the charming smile, replaced by defiant rage. Jaewon, he said, his voice mocking. Still playing hero for the girl? How touching. Why? Jaewon's voice was quiet, which somehow made it more terrifying. We grew up together. I trusted you with my life. That's exactly why. Han spat blood onto the pristine floor. You've gone soft. The white tiger I knew would never protect a random girl. She's made you weak, and weak leaders don't survive in our world. Nia stood, unable to stay silent. You tried to kill him. You worked with the people who poisoned my brother. Han's laugh was cruel. Poisoned? Oh, sweetheart, it was so much more calculated than that. He turned to Jaewon. Dr. Park approached me a year ago. He knew about your scars, knew you hid them from everyone. He wanted someone innocent to see them, someone you'd feel protective of rather than threatened by. Nia was perfect, Han continued conversationally as if discussing a business strategy. Desperate, foreign, invisible, we poisoned her brother to create the circumstances. The plan was for her to accidentally see you, earn your sympathy, move into your home. Eventually, she'd seduce you, or you'd seduce her. We didn't care which. Once she was pregnant, you'd be ours completely. A mafia boss with a family is a mafia boss with leverage. But I didn't seduce anyone, Nia whispered, horror washing over her. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. Han's smile was vicious. That's what made you so useful. Your innocence was the whole point. But Jaewon fell for you faster than we expected. Started protecting you, investigating your background, treating you like you mattered. He looked at Jaewon with disgust. You became exactly what we needed you to be, compromised. Jaewon's rage was palpable, controlled but barely. Where's Dr. Park? Gone. Left Seoul 2 days ago with his payment. Han's grin widened. And before you think about killing me out of revenge, you should know. Dr. Park has a kill switch. If he dies or doesn't check in weekly, your clan's financial records get automatically released to international authorities. Money laundering, weapons deals, everything. You'll lose your empire, your power, everything you've built. The room went silent. Nia watched Jaewon process this impossible choice: protect his organization or chase the man who'd orchestrated everything. Let him go, Nia said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at her. Let Dr. Park go, she repeated, stepping closer to Jaewon. Save your people. Micah is safe now. You've been treating him. That's what matters. He poisoned your brother, Jaewon said through clenched teeth. He used you. He tried to kill me. And you want me to let him walk away? I want you to choose your family over revenge. Her voice was steady despite her shaking hands. Your clan, your people, they depend on you. If you chase Dr. Park and lose everything, what good does that do? You're not a monster, Jaewon. Don't become one for me. Then you're choosing revenge over your family, Nia said quietly, meeting his eyes. You're becoming exactly what they say you are. The words landed like physical blows. Jaewon turned away, his shoulders rigid. When he finally spoke, his voice was empty. Take Han to the secure facility. Don't kill him yet. I want time to decide. As Han was dragged away, still laughing, Jaewon's phone buzzed. He read the message, and Nia watched all color drain from his face. What? She asked, dread pooling in her stomach. He turned the phone toward her. The screen showed a photo of Micah, her beautiful baby brother, unconscious, hooked to machines, surrounded by men in black masks. The message below was simple. We have the boy. You have 24 hours. The girl for the child. Come alone to the address below, or he dies. Nia's world tilted on its axis. No, Jaewon said immediately, reading her expression. Absolutely not. We'll find another way. I'll send my entire... He's my brother. Nia's voice was surprisingly calm. They want me. They can have me. Just save Micah. I won't trade you for... It's not your choice. The words came out sharp, desperate. This started because I'm his sister, and I should have protected him. I should have. Her voice cracked. I promised our mother I'd keep him safe. I can't break that promise. Nia, listen to me. Jaewon gripped her shoulders. They'll kill you the moment they have you. This isn't a trade. It's an execution. Then that's the price. Tears streamed down her face, but her resolve didn't waver. Micah is 12 years old. He deserves a life. I've already lived more than he has. Don't. Jaewon's voice broke. If don't make me choose between you and revenge, don't make me lose. He stopped, the words catching in his throat. They stared at each other, the weight of impossible choices crushing them both. Nia made her decision. That night, while Jaewon was coordinating with his security team, planning a rescue operation, Nia crept to his office. She found cash, the address from the message, and a phone. She left a note on his pillow, her handwriting shaky. He's my brother. I won't let him die for your war. You've already saved him by treating the poison. Now I need to finish what I started. Thank you for trying to save us both. Thank you for making me feel like I mattered. You're not a monster, Jaewon. You're just a man who forgot how to trust. I hope you remember. Nia. She walked out of the penthouse at 3 a.m., past guards who didn't question the boss's woman leaving, and disappeared into Seoul's neon-lit streets. By the time Jaewon found the note, she was already gone. His roar of rage and anguish echoed through the empty penthouse, the sound of a dangerous man realizing too late that he'd fallen in love with someone brave enough to sacrifice herself, and possibly foolish enough to think he'd let her go without a fight. Jaewon woke to emptiness. The penthouse felt wrong, too quiet, the air lacking the subtle warmth that had filled it since Nia arrived. He knew before he saw the note, before his hand touched the paper on his pillow, that she was gone. He's my brother. I won't let him die for your war. The words blurred as rage and terror collided in his chest. He was moving before conscious thought registered, throwing open her bedroom door to find it empty, her few belongings still there, but her presence vanished like smoke. The roar tore from his throat, primal and anguished. He swept his arm across his desk, sending his laptop crashing to the floor. Punched the wall hard enough to split his knuckles. His guards rushed in, weapons drawn, only to stop short at the sight of their unshakable boss breaking apart. Find her. Jaewon's voice cracked. Find her now. His head of security, Min-soo, stepped forward carefully. Sir, we'll mobilize everyone. But I have to ask, why does she matter this much? She's been here 3 weeks. She's everything. The confession came out broken. Jaewon sank into his chair, blood dripping from his knuckles onto the note. She saw my scars and didn't look away. She saw the monster I am, The violence, the darkness, all of it, and still showed me kindness. She made me feel human again. He looked up, his eyes haunted, and I let her walk into danger alone because I was too busy trying to protect her by keeping her in a cage. Understanding dawned on Minsu's face. You love her. I love her. Saying it aloud felt like tearing open his chest. I've been trying to protect her by controlling her, by keeping her behind walls, but she doesn't need a cage. She needs someone who trusts her to be strong enough to stand beside him, not behind him. He stood, something shifting in his expression, no longer panic, but deadly determination. Get everyone. I want every soldier, every contact, every resource we have. This isn't about revenge anymore. This is a rescue. Within 15 minutes, the penthouse was a war room. Maps of Seoul spread across tables, security footage analyzed, informants contacted, the White Tiger clan mobilized with lethal efficiency. Jaewon pulled on his tactical gear, checking weapons with practiced precision. Find her, he said quietly, the words a promise and a prayer, and God help anyone who's touched her. Meanwhile, across the city, Nia sat in the back of a van, her hands bound, being driven to a fate she'd chosen. The warehouse was exactly what she'd expected. Concrete walls, flickering lights, the smell of rust and fear. Men in black masks dragged her inside, and there, in the center of the space, waited Dr. Park. He looked different from his video calls, the grandfatherly warmth replaced by something cold and obsessive. Beside him, on a medical gurney, lay Micah, unconscious but breathing. Nia. Dr. Park smiled, the expression grotesque. You came. I knew you would. You're so predictable, just like your mother. Where's my brother? You promised. Micah is fine, sedated, but fine. Dr. Park circled her slowly, like a predator assessing prey. Do you know why I did all this? Why I went to such elaborate lengths? You're a psychopath who... I'm a man in love. His voice turned sharp. Your mother, Adana, was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. 25 years ago, I met her in Lagos during my residency. I offered her everything. Wealth, status, a life in Seoul. But she chose your father instead. Chose poverty with him over prosperity with me. Nia's blood ran cold. You did this because she rejected you? I did this because she was mine. Dr. Park's composure cracked. I found her again 2 years ago, dying in that hospital. I offered to save Micah if she'd promise you'd eventually come work for me. She refused, even dying. She rejected me. His eyes glistened with delusional tears. So I saved him anyway. Then I poisoned him after she died, knowing you'd do anything, go anywhere to save him. You were always meant to be mine, Naya. If I couldn't have her, I'd have you. Disgust churned in Nia's stomach. You poisoned a child because of a grudge against a dead woman? You're not in love. You're sick. I'm devoted. He grabbed her face, his grip painful. I saved him so you'd need me. I orchestrated everything. The soul job, the room mistake, even Han's betrayal. So you'd end up exactly where I needed you. And now I'll keep you both. You'll learn to love me just like she should have. Naya saw the truth then. Dr. Park was completely unhinged, lost in a delusion decades old. She also saw opportunity. His guards were young, inexperienced, probably Black Serpent recruits rather than professionals. One stood near a medical cart loaded with supplies. The other was distracted, checking his phone. Nia had spent 3 weeks watching Jaewon's security protocols, learning how professionals moved, where they kept weapons, how they assessed threats. She wasn't helpless anymore. You're right, she said, her voice suddenly soft, compliant. I understand now. You loved her. You love me. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. Dr. Park's expression shifted to pleased surprise. You do? Can I just check on Micah? Make sure he's okay? Then we can talk about us. The moment Dr. Park nodded, Nia moved. She drove her heel into his instep, twisted free, and lunged for the medical cart. Her bound hands grabbed a surgical tray and hurled it at the nearest guard's face. He went down screaming. The second guard reached for his weapon, but Nia kicked the cart into his knees. He stumbled, and she grabbed a scalpel, slashing through her bindings with desperate precision. Stop her! Dr. Park shrieked. But Naya was already at Micah's gurney, disconnecting him from the non-essential machines, wheeling him toward a side room she'd spotted. She shoved the gurney inside, slammed the door, and barricaded it with a metal shelf. Her hands shook as she checked Micah's pulse, steady, strong. I've got you, baby boy. I've got you. She found a phone in the room's desk drawer, probably a guard's personal device. With trembling fingers, she activated the location sharing and sent it to the last number that had called her, Jaewon's number. Outside, Dr. Park was screaming, guards slamming against the door. Naya looked around the room, found broken glass from a shattered window, grabbed the largest shard, and positioned herself between the door and her unconscious brother. Come on then, she whispered, her voice steady despite her terror. You want me? Come and get me. The door exploded inward 20 minutes later, but it wasn't Dr. Park's guards who entered. It was Jaewon, flanked by his soldiers, moving with lethal grace through the warehouse. Gunfire echoed, men screamed, and then silence. The barricaded door burst open, and Jaewon stood in the entrance, weapon drawn, looking like an avenging angel carved from darkness. His eyes found Nia, bloodied, fierce, holding broken glass like a weapon with her brother sleeping peacefully behind her. Their gazes locked. And in that moment, Jaewon fell completely, irrevocably, devastatingly in love with the woman who'd walked into his life by accident and changed everything by choice. You're late, Nia said, her voice shaking but her stance unwavering. I'm here now. His voice was rough with emotion, and I'm never letting you out of my sight again. Jaewon's team swept through the warehouse with military precision, securing rooms, restraining guards. But in the chaos, Dr. Park slipped away. Boss, he's heading for the east exit. Minsu's voice crackled through the radio. Jaewon was already moving. He shoved his weapon into Minsu's hands. Protect them. Both of them. Anyone gets past you, you answer to me. Then he was gone, chasing through the warehouse's maze of corridors. Dr. Park had a head start, but Jaewon was faster, driven by rage that had burned cold and focused. He tracked him through the warehouse, into the alley behind it, then down into Seoul's underground service tunnels, a labyrinth beneath the city that few knew existed. The pursuit showcased everything Jaewon was beneath the CEO veneer. A trained killer, moving through shadows like he was born to them, lethal and relentless. He caught Dr. Park at a tunnel junction, grabbed his collar, and slammed him against the concrete wall. You should have stayed gone, Jaewon growled. Dr. Park laughed, breathless and unhinged. You're too late. The kill switch was disabled 10 minutes ago. Jaewon's smile was cold. You underestimated my tech team. Your leverage is gone. Now it's just you and me. He dragged Dr. Park up through an access ladder, emerging onto a rooftop overlooking the Han River. Dawn was breaking, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. 2 black serpent assassins were waiting. Dr. Park's final insurance. They attacked simultaneously, but Jaewon moved like water, like violence personified. His shoulder wound from the gala slowed him, but rage fueled him past the pain. One assassin went down with a broken knee. The second took longer, but eventually collapsed, unconscious. Jaewon advanced on Dr. Park, who backed toward the rooftop's edge. You think you can save her? Dr. Park spat, his face twisted with hatred. You're a monster, Kang. She'll realize it eventually. She'll see what you really are and leave you, just like everyone leaves you. Maybe. Jaewon's voice was deadly calm, but I'm a monster who protects what's mine. You're just a coward who hurts children because a woman didn't want you 25 years ago. They collided in brutal close combat. Dr. Park was trained. Medical knowledge turned deadly, knowing exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage. But Jaewon was fueled by something stronger than skill. He was fighting for Naya, for Micah, for the future he'd never imagined wanting until 3 weeks ago. He landed a devastating blow to Dr. Park's ribs, sending him stumbling backward. The older man's foot slipped on the rooftop's edge, and suddenly he was dangling, held only by Jaewon's grip on his collar. Please, Dr. Park gasped, all bravado gone. Don't kill me. Jaewon stared down at him, the man who'd poisoned a child, manipulated Nia, orchestrated Han's betrayal, tried to destroy everything. One release of his fingers and it would be over. Justice served. Threat eliminated. You're becoming the monster they say you are. Nia's words echoed in his memory. Jaewon's jaw clenched. Every instinct screamed to let go, to watch this man fall, to end it. But he thought of Nia's face when she'd looked at him, not with fear, but with hope that he could be better than his worst impulses. With a grunt of effort, Jaewon hauled Dr. Park back onto the rooftop and called his guards. Take him to the authorities. All the evidence. The poisoning, the conspiracy, everything. Let the law handle him. Dr. Park collapsed, coughing. Then he started laughing, a manic, broken sound. You think it's over? He looked up, his eyes glittering with madness. Han told me there's a third partner, someone even closer to you than him. Someone in your own clan, feeding information this whole time. You'll never know who. They're still there, Kang. Still watching. Still waiting. Ice flooded Jaewon's veins. A third traitor? But before he could respond, police sirens wailed below. His contacts and law enforcement had arrived. Back at the warehouse, Naya sat with Micah, who was finally waking up. Nia? His voice was groggy, confused. Where? Shh, baby boy. You're safe now. We're both safe. She held his hand, tears streaming down her face. Medics were checking his vitals, preparing transport to a proper hospital. Minsu's team had secured the perimeter. Then Jaewon appeared in the doorway. He looked like he'd fought through hell, bruised, bloodied, his clothes torn. But his eyes found Nia across the room, and everything else faded. Neither of them spoke as he crossed to her. He simply pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe, his face buried in her hair. You were supposed to wait for me, he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. I'm not good at following orders, she replied, her hands coming up to touch his face gently, checking his injuries. I noticed. His lips quirked despite everything. Then his expression turned serious. I love you, Nia. I didn't want to. I tried not to. But you saw the worst of me and stayed. You made me want to be better than what I was raised to be. Nia's tears fell freely now. I love you too, even though you're infuriating, controlling, and way too dramatic. Dramatic? He almost laughed. You mobilized an entire clan for one person. For you. His thumb wiped away her tears. I'd mobilize an army. Their kiss was tender and desperate, full of relief and promise and the weight of everything they'd survived. It tasted like blood and tears and new beginnings. When they finally pulled apart, Micah was watching with wide eyes. Nia, is this your boyfriend? He asked weakly. Yes, she said, meeting Jaewon's eyes. Yes, he is. Behind them, unnoticed in the chaos, Minsu stood in the shadows, his phone hidden in his palm. His fingers moved across the screen with practiced precision. Phase 1 complete. They trust me completely now. Park eliminated, Han contained. Ready for Phase 2 on your command. He hit send, slipped the phone away, and moved forward to help coordinate the medical transport, his face a mask of loyal concern. The message delivered to an unknown number. The game far from over. 3 months later, Seoul welcomed spring. Cherry blossoms drifted through the air like pink snow, covering the city in a blanket of renewal. Nia stood at the window of the penthouse, soon to be their former penthouse, watching the petals dance on the breeze, and marveled at how much had changed. Behind her, Micah's laughter rang out as he video called his new friends from the international school where he now thrived. His cheeks had filled out, color returned to his skin, and the oxygen tubes were a distant memory. He spoke with the boundless energy of a 12-year-old who'd been given a second chance at life. Nia, tell Jaewon I got an A on my Korean language test, Micah called out. Tell him yourself, she said, smiling as Jaewon emerged from his office, his expression softening the moment he saw the boy. An A? Jaewon raised an eyebrow, but pride shone in his eyes. I suppose that means I have to take you to that arcade you've been mentioning. Yes! Micah pumped his fist. Naya watched them together. This man who'd once been called a monster, now patient and gentle with her brother, and her heart swelled. Jaewon had changed in ways she'd never imagined possible. He smiled more, attended Micah's school events without complaint, and had begun legitimizing parts of his business empire, slowly distancing himself from the darkest corners of his world. She'd changed too. Gone was the invisible cleaning woman who kept her head down and counted money in envelopes. Now she studied business management at Seoul National University, spoke increasingly fluent Korean, and stood beside Jaewon in his world without fear, challenging him when he needed it, supporting him when he didn't ask for it. That evening, after Micah went to bed, Jaewon found her on the balcony. There's something I need to tell you, he said quietly, his expression troubled. I still haven't found the third traitor. Dr. Park's warning. I can't shake the feeling someone's still watching. Naya took his hand. Maybe the traitor doesn't exist. Maybe Dr. Park lied just to torment you from prison. Maybe. But his eyes said he didn't believe it. She squeezed his fingers. Then we'll be careful. Together. Together, he echoed, something shifting in his expression. Come with me. There's something I want to show you. He drove them to a building she'd never seen, a modern structure with a private rooftop garden overlooking the Han River. The same river that had witnessed his choice to spare Dr. Park, to choose humanity over vengeance. Now it would witness something else entirely. The garden was breathtaking. Cherry trees in full bloom, stone pathways, soft lighting that made everything glow. In the center stood a bench with a small box on it. Not a ring box. A key. "This is ours," Jaewon said, his voice uncharacteristically nervous. "A new home. A place without ghosts, without the weight of everything that happened. A place where we start fresh. Just us, Micah, and whatever future we build together." Naya's breath caught. "Jaewon, I'm asking you to stay, permanently." He picked up the key, pressing it into her palm. "Let me be the man you believed I could be, even when I didn't believe it myself. Build a life with me, Naya. Choose me the way you choose Micah, not out of obligation, but out of love." Tears blurred her vision. "I walked into the wrong bathroom that night." His expression flickered with worry, but she smiled through her tears. "And I'm never letting you walk out of my life," he whispered, pulling her close. Their kiss was soft and deep, full of promise and cherry blossom petals drifting around them like blessings. 2 weeks later, their new home was filled with life. Micah sprawled on the living room floor, laughing at a Korean drama while attempting to translate the jokes for Naya. Jaewon stood in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, determinedly following a recipe despite his complete lack of cooking skills. "You're burning the rice," Nia called out, grinning. "I am not." Smoke detector went off. "Okay, I'm burning the rice." Micah dissolved into giggles. Nia moved to help, and Jaewon caught her waist, pulling her against him despite the culinary disaster behind them. "I love you," he said simply. "I know." She kissed his jaw. "I love you too. Even your terrible cooking." As Micah's laughter filled their home and cherry blossoms danced past the windows, Nia thought about the strange path that had brought them here. She'd come to Seoul to save her brother, and had somehow saved a broken man's soul in the process. "I came seeking survival," she thought, watching Jaewon ruffle Micah's hair with genuine affection, and found something worth living for instead. Outside, spring painted Seoul in shades of pink and gold, promising new beginnings. Inside, three people who'd survived darkness together built something brighter. A family forged not by blood or obligation, but by choice, sacrifice, and love that refused to be destroyed. And if somewhere in the shadows, danger still waited, if a third traitor truly existed, watching and planning, well, they would face it the same way they'd faced everything else. Together.